Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you love long, immersive werewolf romance stories filled with drama, secrets, and destiny, don't forget to subscribe to Alpha's Wolf Romance Library. Now, let's begin. The night was quiet, almost deceptively so. Outside her small cabin, the forest lay hushed beneath the silver glow of the moon, wolves howling faintly in the distance. But inside, her world felt anything but calm. Her hands shook as she held the black and white printout in her lap. The ultrasound. Proof of the tiny heartbeat fluttering inside her. Proof that despite rejection, despite heartbreak, despite everything, she wasn't alone anymore. Her chest rose and fell with uneven breaths, tears stinging her eyes as she stared at the blurred image. She had promised herself she would protect this child, no matter what it cost. Even if the entire world turned against her. Her phone buzzed in her trembling hand. A message from her closest friend lit the screen. Did you tell anyone yet? Please say you didn't. She hesitated, her thumb hovering over the keypad. No. She hadn't told anyone. Not her father. Not her pack. Not the Alpha who had rejected her and shattered her future in a single cruel sentence. But tonight, the weight inside her chest felt too heavy to carry alone. Her tears slipped freely, blurring the screen as she snapped a shaky picture of the ultrasound. She typed quickly, her heart racing. I can't hide it anymore. This is my baby. Her thumb hit send before she could stop herself. The photo disappeared, the message whooshing away into the dark silence. She exhaled shakily, pressing the phone to her chest, waiting for her friend's reply. But when the phone buzzed again, her heart stopped. It wasn't her friend. The name flashing on the screen made her blood run cold. The Alpha King. Her stomach twisted violently, her breath catching in her throat. She blinked rapidly, thinking she must have imagined it. But no, the message was real, glowing on the screen in stark white letters. Where are you? Her fingers trembled so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Her heart pounded in her ears, her wolf stirring restlessly inside her chest. This had to be a mistake. It had to be. Somehow, she had sent the photo to the wrong contact. Her mind spun in panic. The Alpha King. The most feared wolf in the kingdom. A man whispered about in taverns and training yards, his dominance legendary, his golden eyes said to burn through lies. He ruled with absolute authority. Packs bent their knees at his name. And now, he had her ultrasound picture. Another buzz rattled the silence. Another message. That is mine. She gasped, her knees buckling as she stumbled back against the wall. Her tears blurred the screen, her chest rising and falling in frantic gulps of air. No, no, it isn't, she whispered desperately, shaking her head. It's not yours. But her wolf growled low inside her, restless, unsettled. He knows. Her phone buzzed again. This time, the words made her blood run colder than ice. Do not move. My warriors are coming. She dropped the phone, her trembling hands clutching her belly instinctively. Outside, the forest was still. But she swore she could already hear the distant sound of paws pounding against the earth. The ultrasound lay on the floor, forgotten for a moment, the tiny blurred image staring up at her. She sank to her knees, her body shaking violently as fear and confusion swirled together inside her chest. She hadn't meant to send it. She hadn't meant for anyone to know. And now the one wolf she had never intended to face knew everything. The Alpha King. And he was coming. Long before the ultrasound, before the chilling text from the Alpha King, her story had already been written in heartbreak. She had not always been alone. Once, there was another Alpha, not the king, but a man from her own pack, who had promised her the world. He was handsome, strong, his wolf fierce, his smile charming. To her, he had been everything. And when their eyes first met at the Harvest Moon Festival, sparks had danced between them, a sign the elders swore was the mark of true mates. She had believed it. She had given him her heart. For a time, it felt like a fairy tale. He whispered vows of forever in the quiet of the forest, brushed his lips against her knuckles, told her that no one else could ever compare. She dared to dream of a future filled with warmth, of a wedding, of children, of love that endured every storm. But love, she would learn, could be a cruel lie. The day of her 21st birthday, she waited for him beneath the moon, her heart racing, her wolf pacing eagerly within her. It was tradition, on that night, they would seal their bond, their wolves merging as one. She dressed in white, her smile trembling but full of hope. He never came. Instead, she found him in the great hall the next morning, his arm wrapped around another. A noble's daughter, beautiful, powerful, the kind of match that brought wealth and status. His voice had been cold when he looked at her, the warmth gone from his eyes. "It was a mistake," he said flatly. "You're not my future. You're not strong enough, not worthy enough. I won't bind myself to weakness." The words cut deeper than claws. Her wolf howled in anguish, her chest splintering as rejection seared through her. She staggered back, her lips trembling, her tears burning as laughter rippled through the hall. Nobles whispered cruelly, some smirking, others pitying. From that day, she became invisible. Whispers followed her everywhere she went. "That's the girl who was rejected. Pathetic. Weak." She thought she could be Luna. She lowered her head, kept to the shadows, forced herself to shrink smaller and smaller until she felt she might disappear completely. But weeks later, when the sickness began, when her body grew heavy and her belly swelled, the truth came crashing down. She was carrying his child. Her hands trembled the day she saw the faint flutter on the healer's screen, the tiny heartbeat pulsing with stubborn life. Her chest cracked wide, her tears falling as she pressed her palms protectively to her stomach. Her wolf stirred faintly, whispering through the bond that was left in tatters. "Protect it. Protect what's ours." But fear gripped her. If the pack found out, they would call her shameful. A rejected mate carrying the child of the alpha who had thrown her aside? It would be scandal. Nobles would sneer, elders would whisper, and her father would never forgive her for the disgrace. So she hid it. Loose clothing disguised her growing belly. She avoided gatherings, slipped out of training sessions, claimed sickness when questioned. At night, she wept alone, whispering promises to the tiny life inside her. "I'll keep you safe," she vowed, her tears dampening the pillow. "I don't know how, but I'll keep you safe." Each kick, each flutter reminded her of the secret she carried. And though she feared the world's cruelty, she found strength in it too. For the first time since the rejection, she wasn't alone. But she never expected the secret to slip from her hands. She never expected one careless moment, one trembling decision to send the ultrasound into the wrong hands. And of all wolves, she never expected it to be him. The Alpha King. The most powerful wolf alive. The one whispered about in stories, ruthless, dominant, unstoppable. A wolf who ruled kingdoms, not homes. A wolf who had no reason to even know her name. And yet, he had seen the ultrasound. He had claimed it instantly. "That is mine." Her chest ached as she sat curled in her small bed, clutching the printout against her heart. Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head. It can't be true. It isn't his. It's not possible. But her wolf stirred again, restless, growling low. He knows. He feels it. She buried her face in her hands, sobs tearing from her throat. "I just wanted to protect this baby. I didn't want this. I didn't want him to come. But deep down, beneath the terror, beneath the confusion, a flicker of something else stirred. Something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Because if the Alpha King believed this child was his, then maybe, just maybe, her baby wasn't doomed to a life of whispers and shame. Maybe destiny had other plans. Her phone lay on the floor where she had dropped it, the screen glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. Every vibration made her heart jolt, every buzz rattled her bones. She wanted to ignore it, to pretend it wasn't happening, but the Alpha King was not someone you ignored. Her trembling fingers reached down, picking up the device as if it might burn her. The screen lit again. Another message. You will not hide from me. Her breath hitched, her chest tightening as she stumbled back against the wall. Her tears blurred the screen, her lips parting in disbelief. She shook her head violently, whispering, "No, no, this isn't real. It can't be real." But the messages kept coming, one after another, each one like a drumbeat pounding into her chest. That is my heir. Do not run. Do not resist me. Her body trembled as her wolf stirred restlessly inside her, not with fear, but with something deeper, recognition. He knows. Her hand clutched at her stomach, her pulse racing. No, she whispered again, her voice cracking. This baby isn't his. It isn't. But her wolf's low growl made her falter. Are you sure? Her mind spun, memories flashing, the rejection, the heartbreak, the cruel words that had shattered her. But alongside them came other moments, fleeting, almost forgotten. The night of the harvest moon. A golden gaze that had lingered on her longer than it should have. A spark she thought she imagined. Her stomach twisted violently. No. The phone buzzed again, jolting her back into the present. If you do not come to me, I will come to you. Her chest constricted, her tears spilling as she stared at the glowing words. She knew his reputation. The Alpha King did not bluff. His warriors could cross territories in hours, his command absolute. If he wanted something, he would take it, and tonight, he wanted her. She dropped the phone onto the bed, clutching her hair in her fists as she sank to her knees. Why now? Why me? I didn't ask for this. But the ultrasound printout lay on the floor, the tiny blurred image staring up at her, innocent and undeniable. Her baby. Her secret. Her truth. And somehow, impossibly, he had claimed it. Her phone buzzed again, vibrating violently against the mattress. She forced herself to look, her heart hammering so loudly she could barely hear her own thoughts. Tell me where you are. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She wanted to resist, to scream, to throw the phone into the fire. But her hands shook as she typed, her lips trembling. It isn't yours. For a heartbeat, silence. The screen went dark. Her chest heaved, her tears spilling as hope flickered faintly in her chest. Maybe he would stop. Maybe he would leave her alone. Then the phone lit again. You dare lie to me? Her stomach lurched. Her wolf whimpered, pressing low in submission, recognizing the Alpha King's dominance even through the cold glow of the screen. The weight of his power radiated through every word, pressing against her chest like an invisible hand. Another buzz. Do not test me. The child is mine. And so are you. Her tears streamed freely now as she pressed the phone to her chest, her sobs muffled against the fabric of her dress. She shook her head desperately, whispering to herself, No, no, no. I can't. I can't do this. But her wolf stirred again, more insistent this time, its growl steady in her mind. He will come. Her breath hitched as the phone buzzed one final time. The message that appeared made her heart stop, her blood turned to ice. My warrior's ride. Come now, or I will take you from your bed. She dropped the phone, her body trembling so violently she could barely stand. Outside, the forest was still, but she swore she could hear the faint echo of howls in the distance, carried on the wind like a warning. Her hands clutched protectively at her stomach as she backed toward the door, her eyes wide with terror. The ultrasound printout lay on the floor, the tiny blurred image illuminated by the pale glow of the moon through the window. She had tried to hide. She had tried to bury the truth. But the Alpha King had found her. And he was coming. The cabin was too quiet. Too still. She stood frozen by the door, her hands clutching her stomach, her chest heaving as though she had run for miles. The last message still glowed on the phone where it had fallen to the floor, each word burning into her mind. My warrior's ride. Come now, or I will take you from your bed. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She pressed her back against the wall, shaking her head, whispering to herself like a prayer. It can't be real. He won't really come. He doesn't care about me, he can't. But her wolf stirred, restless, pacing, ears pricked to the wind outside. It growled softly in her chest, not in fear, but in recognition. He is already near. Her breath hitched. She crept to the window, her trembling fingers pulling the curtain back just enough to peer outside. The forest stretched out in silver moonlight, shadows long and twisted across the ground. At first, there was nothing. No sound but the whisper of leaves, no movement but the sway of branches. Then, faintly at first, she heard it. A howl. Deep, resonant, echoing through the night. Answered almost immediately by another. Then another. Her stomach dropped. The sound of paws striking the earth followed, muffled but growing louder with every passing second. The forest that had always been her refuge now became a cage, every tree hiding the approach of something she couldn't stop. Her chest heaved as she stumbled back from the window. No, no, no. The first shadow broke through the tree-line. A massive wolf, its fur dark as night, eyes glowing faintly in the silver light. Another followed, and another, until half a dozen warriors prowled into the clearing, their wolves circling silently, their steps deliberate, their dominance heavy in the air. She pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, stifling the scream threatening to break free. The pack had noticed too. Lights flickered to life in neighboring houses, windows creaking open as villagers peeked into the night. Whispers spread like wildfire, voices hushed but urgent. What's happening? Those are the king's warriors. They've come for someone. Her name floated among them, spoken in disbelief, in awe, in fear. They've come for her. Her knees buckled, her back sliding against the wall until she collapsed onto the floor. Her tears streamed silently down her face as she shook her head violently. She had wanted to keep the baby hidden, safe, untouched by the cruelty of the world. Now the entire pack would know. A sharp knock thundered against the cabin door, making her flinch violently. Open, a deep voice commanded, muffled through the wood but resonant with authority. She pressed her trembling hands over her stomach, her sobs muffled as she whispered, "No, please, please go away." The knock came again, harder this time. "Luna," the voice growled. The title sent a jolt through her chest, though she had never claimed it, never imagined it. "The king waits. Do not make this harder." Her wolf whined inside her, low and anxious, torn between fear and instinctive submission. She crawled back toward the corner, curling herself protectively around her belly. I can't do this," she whispered. "He'll take everything. He'll take me." The warriors did not wait. The door shuddered on its hinges as claws scraped against the wood, deep growls vibrating through the cabin walls. Her breath came in sharp gasps, her eyes wide with terror as the air thickened, heavy with dominance. Then silence. Her heart pounded as she strained to listen, her tears freezing on her cheeks. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, a howl, deeper, louder, carrying a power that made the very walls tremble. Her wolf pressed low in submission, her body instinctively bowing even as she fought against it. The sound carried authority unlike anything she had ever known, a force that demanded obedience, recognition, surrender. The Alpha King. He had come himself. The warriors parted outside, their growls silenced as his presence rolled through the clearing. She dared a glance through the window, her breath catching violently. He was there. Tall, broad-shouldered, his cloak flowing behind him as though even the wind bent to his will. His golden eyes glowed in the darkness, sharp and unyielding, burning straight into the cabin where she cowered. Her chest constricted. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The door creaked, the lock shattering with a sharp crack. The wood swung open, the air of the forest rushing in, filled with the scent of pine, smoke, and him. He stepped inside. The warriors bowed low at the threshold, their heads bent as he entered, his presence filling the tiny space until it felt suffocating. His eyes swept the room once before locking onto her trembling frame curled in the corner. She froze, her chest heaving, her tears falling silently. His gaze dropped to her hands, still clutching protectively over her belly. His golden eyes flared brighter. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, his voice. Deep, resonant, final. You should have come to me. Her sob broke free, her body shaking as she whispered, "It isn't yours." The corner of his lips curled, not in amusement, but in something darker, something possessive. He stepped closer, the weight of his presence pressing into her chest until she could barely breathe. "Do not lie to me," he growled. "Your wolf already knows the truth. And so do you." Her heart slammed against her ribs, her wolf whining in submission, torn between fear and recognition. She wanted to deny it again, to scream, to fight. But the bond sparking faintly in the air between them silenced her. The Alpha King extended his hand, his eyes blazing gold. "Stand. You are mine." The cabin was too small to hold him. The Alpha King filled the space like a storm-given flesh, his cloak brushing against the doorframe, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The air grew heavy with his presence, pressing against her chest, her lungs struggling to draw breath. Her wolf whimpered inside her, torn between instinctive submission and her desperate will to resist. She pressed her back harder into the corner, her hands trembling as they shielded her belly. "Please, go," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It isn't yours. I don't want this. I don't want you." The king stepped closer, each movement deliberate, his boots thudding softly against the wooden floor. His gaze never left her trembling frame, sharp and unyielding, cutting through every wall she tried to raise. "You dare deny me?" His voice was low, dangerous, but not raised. It carried power that made the walls tremble, made her bones feel brittle. "You send me proof of my heir, then cower and claim it is not mine?" Her chest constricted, her tears blurring her vision. She shook her head violently, clutching herself tighter. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to send it. You weren't supposed to see. Just leave me alone." But the king crouched before her, his towering frame folding easily as his golden eyes burned into hers. His scent surrounded her, cedar, smoke, and power, and her wolf stirred helplessly at the recognition. "A mistake," he growled softly, leaning closer until his voice was a dangerous whisper. "The moon does not make mistakes. Nor do I." Her lips parted, her sob catching in her throat. She turned her face away, unable to withstand the weight of his gaze. But his hand reached out, slow, deliberate, tilting her chin back toward him. His touch was firm, unyielding, yet careful, as though he dared not break what he claimed. Her breath hitched, sparks igniting at the contact. She flinched, her wolf whining low, torn between fear and longing. "Look at me," he commanded. Her eyes darted up, tears streaming freely as they met his. And in that instant, she felt it, the bond. Faint, fragile, buried beneath her rejection and fear, but real. Sparks flared between them, undeniable. Her chest heaved as she gasped, shaking her head. No, no, it can't be. He rejected me. He said I wasn't worthy. This child isn't yours. The king's expression darkened, his wolf surging behind his eyes, golden light blazing brighter. His voice deepened, reverberating through the walls, through her bones. Your mate was a fool. He cast you aside, but he could not sever what was already written. You were mine from the start. Her sob broke openly, her tears falling fast. She pushed at his chest weakly, her voice breaking. Why me? Out of everyone, why me? His jaw clenched, his gaze softening just slightly. For the first time, the edge of his fury dimmed, revealing something deeper beneath. Because you are not weakness, he said firmly. You are strength. You carry my blood, my air. And I will not allow another to touch what is mine. Her body trembled violently, her mind spinning. She wanted to deny it, to fight him, but the sparks beneath her skin told the truth her lips could not speak. Her wolf pressed forward inside her, bowing instinctively, whispering, ours. She collapsed into sobs, her forehead pressing against his chest despite herself. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be Luna. I don't know how to be yours. The king's arms came around her, strong and unyielding, holding her as though she was the most fragile thing he had ever touched. His voice lowered, steady and absolute. You do not have to know. You only have to be. The rest, we will learn together. Her tears dampened his cloak, her sobs breaking softer now, weaker beneath the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in months, she felt something other than despair. Safety. But outside, the whispers of the pack grew louder. Footsteps gathered, voices rising as neighbors pressed closer to the cabin, desperate to know why the king himself had come. The king's golden eyes flicked toward the door, his expression hardening once more. They will question. They will whisper. But I will silence them all. Her lips trembled as she looked up at him, fear tightening her chest again. They'll hate me. They'll say I tricked you. They'll never accept me. The king's wolf surged, a growl rumbling deep in his chest, shaking the floorboards. His gaze locked on hers, fierce and final. Let them hate. Let them whisper. It will not change the truth. You are mine. The child is mine. And soon, the world will bow. Her heart slammed against her ribs, her tears falling freely as his words wrapped around her like a vow, heavy and unbreakable. The Alpha King leaned closer, his forehead pressing against hers, his golden eyes burning with conviction. You will not hide again. Do you understand? From this night forward, you walk beside me. Her sob cracked into the silence, her hands trembling as they clutched at his cloak. She didn't know if she had the strength, if she could face the world's scorn, if she could bear the weight of being his Luna. But for the first time, she believed she might not have to do it alone. For a long moment, the cabin was silent except for her sobs. She clung to the king's cloak as though it were the only thing keeping her upright, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. His golden eyes never left her, steady and sharp, the weight of his presence pressing into her chest like a shield. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but unyielding. Tell me everything. Her lips parted, but the words caught in her throat. She shook her head violently, her tears spilling faster. I can't. You wouldn't understand. His hand tilted her chin upward, forcing her gaze into his. Sparks flared at the contact, undeniable, pulling at her wolf until it whimpered in reluctant submission. His eyes blazed brighter, his wolf pushing through his voice. You will tell me. I will not ask again. Her chest heaved, her heart hammering painfully. She wanted to resist, to bury the shame deeper where no one could find it. But his gaze stripped her bare, unraveling every wall she had built. The words tumbled out in broken gasps. He rejected me. The king's expression sharpened instantly, his jaw clenching. His wolf snarled beneath his skin, the growl vibrating through the room. Who? Her tears spilled faster as she shook her head, her voice trembling. An alpha. From my own pack. He said I wasn't worthy. That I wasn't strong enough to stand beside him. He threw me aside like I was nothing. Her body convulsed with sobs as she buried her face in her hands. And then I found out I was pregnant. His child. The same wolf who said I wasn't good enough to stand at his side left me with this. Her trembling hand pressed to her stomach, her voice breaking. I didn't want anyone to know. They would have laughed. They would have called me weak, pathetic. So I hid it. I thought if I just stayed quiet, if I just disappeared into the shadows, maybe my baby would have a chance. Her voice faltered into silence. The cabin felt colder, her sobs echoing like confessions torn from her soul. The Alpha King did not move for a long moment. His eyes blazed with fury, his wolf clawing to the surface, demanding blood. The wood of the cabin creaked beneath his clenched fists, his dominance thickening the air until the very torches outside sputtered. He dared reject you, he growled, each word dripping with lethal promise. He dared to touch you, then cast you aside, leaving you to bear his child alone. His eyes burned brighter, his voice deepening with his wolf's growl. He will not live to see another dawn. She gasped, her hands shooting out to clutch his cloak. No. Don't, please, don't kill him. I don't want more blood. I don't want my child to be born into more hate. Her tears blurred her vision as she looked up at him desperately. I just wanted peace. I wanted to protect this baby. That's all. The king's chest rose and fell heavily, his wolf raging behind his eyes, but his gaze softened as it landed on her trembling form. He lowered his hand, pressing it firmly over hers where it rested on her belly. Sparks flared at the contact, not violent this time, but warm, protective, grounding. His voice dropped to a vow. Then hear me now. From this night forward, you and this child will never know fear again. You will never beg for scraps of respect. You will never hide in shadows. Because you are mine. And what is mine is untouchable. Her breath hitched, her tears spilling faster. But it isn't your child, she whispered weakly. You don't owe me anything. His gaze burned deeper, his golden eyes locking on hers. His wolf growled low, steady, as though sealing a truth greater than her fear. It doesn't matter whose blood runs in its veins. The moment I saw that heartbeat, it became mine. The moment I touched you, you became mine. Nothing, no rejection, no oath, no past, will change that. Her sob broke openly, her knees buckling as she collapsed against him. Why? Why would you fight for me? His arms wrapped around her, his embrace fierce and unyielding. His voice rumbled low against her ear, a vow carved in stone. Because fate does not make mistakes. You were always meant to stand beside me. And I will burn this world to ash before I let anyone take you from me again. The bond flared hot between them, her wolf howling inside her chest, pressing forward to meet his. Sparks danced across her skin, heat racing through her veins, a taste of what could not be denied. For the first time, she didn't feel cursed. She didn't feel worthless. She didn't feel invisible. She felt chosen. Outside, the whispers of the pack grew louder, pressing against the cabin walls. Nobles muttered in outrage, warriors murmured in confusion, neighbors gasped at the audacity of what they suspected. The king claims her. But she's nothing, rejected, shamed. Why would he take her? The Alpha King straightened, pulling her to her feet with him. His hand never left hers, his presence wrapping around her like armor. He turned toward the door, his voice low but final. Let them whisper. Let them rage. Tonight, they will see the truth. Her chest tightened as she clutched his hand, her tears falling silently. She didn't know if she was ready to face them, to endure their stares and their cruelty. But with him beside her, with his vow burning in her ears, she knew she wouldn't face it alone. And for the first time since her rejection, she allowed herself to hope. The night should have been silent, but the moment the Alpha King stepped out of her cabin with her hand in his, the world erupted. The clearing was full. Nobles in their fine gowns stood at the front, their jeweled fans clutched tightly as though they could ward off fear. Elders lined the steps of the hall, their staffs glowing faintly with the power of tradition, their faces pale with disbelief. Behind them, villagers crowded together, whispering in awe and outrage. Even children clung to their mothers, wide-eyed at the sight of the king himself in their midst. And at the very edge of the crowd, she saw him, her father. His eyes burned with fury, his lips pressed into a thin line, his fists clenched at his sides. She flinched, instinctively lowering her gaze, but the king's grip tightened on her hand, anchoring her. The murmurs spread like wildfire. She's the rejected one. She carries another Alpha's child. He can't claim her, it's against tradition. The king must have lost his mind. Her heart hammered, her knees trembling beneath the weight of their scorn. The shame she had fought to bury rose in waves, threatening to drown her. She wanted to shrink, to disappear into the earth. But the Alpha King did not shrink. He stepped forward, pulling her with him, his golden eyes sweeping over the crowd. His wolf radiated dominance so thick it pressed into every chest, forced every wolf to bow their heads instinctively. Even those who hated him bent lower, unable to resist the command woven into his presence. Still, one voice dared to rise. An elder slammed his staff into the ground, his voice trembling but loud. This cannot be allowed. She was rejected, shamed. She carries the blood of another Alpha. To make her Luna would be to defy the moon itself. Gasps rippled through the crowd, some nodding in agreement, others whispering in fear. Her chest constricted, tears pricking her eyes. She opened her mouth to plead, to say she hadn't wanted this, but the king silenced her with a single glance. His voice thundered across the clearing. You dare speak for the moon? The elder faltered, his grip on his staff tightening as he stumbled back a step. But another noble woman stepped forward, her jeweled gown glittering in the torchlight. Her voice was sharp, full of venom. She is nothing. Weak, rejected, unworthy. How can she be queen? How can she bear your heir when she... The king's growl cut her words to shreds. The sound shook the trees, rattled the torches, pressed every wolf to their knees. His golden eyes blazed as he roared, his wolf surging through his voice. She is mine. The crowd fell silent instantly, their whispers choked back by fear and awe. The torches flickered violently, shadows dancing across their bowed faces. The king stepped closer to the elders, his presence suffocating, his words final. You speak of tradition. You speak of rejection. But tonight, you saw what none of you could deny. The bond is real. The moon blessed it with her light. And from this night forward, there will be no doubt. She is Luna. And she carries my heir. Gasps erupted, nobles clutching their pearls, elders stiffening in outrage. Your heir, they echoed in disbelief. Her breath caught, her tears spilling as she looked up at him. But, she whispered faintly, but he squeezed her hand, silencing her gently. His eyes flicked to her belly, then back to the crowd. Yes, he said firmly, his voice low but carrying across the entire clearing. My heir. I have claimed both her and the child she carries. Any who question it question me. And you know what becomes of those who defy the Alpha King. The pack trembled. Wolves whimpered under their breath, their instincts bowing even as their pride resisted. But her father stepped forward, his voice breaking the silence, sharp and furious. You shame us all. You shame yourself. That is not your child, and she is not worthy of you. She was nothing but a pawn, a tool, a... The king's wolf surged, golden light flaring from his eyes as his growl roared through the clearing. Her father collapsed to his knees, gasping for air beneath the crushing weight of the king's dominance. The ground itself seemed to tremble beneath the force. Enough, the king thundered. From this night forward, no one will call her worthless. No one will dare speak her name with scorn. If you do, you defy me. And I will tear out the throat of any who dares. The crowd bowed lower, their resistance crushed beneath his words. Even her father trembled, his wolf whimpering as he lowered his head, forced into submission. Her tears streamed silently down her cheeks as she stood beside the king, his hands steady around hers. For the first time, no one laughed. No one whispered. No one called her weak. The Alpha King turned back to her, his golden gaze softening just enough to reach her trembling soul. His voice dropped low, meant only for her. They will learn to respect you. Not because of me. Because of you. But until they do, they will fear me. And that is enough. Her lips parted, her chest aching with the weight of everything. She whispered brokenly, I never wanted any of this. He lifted her hand to his lips, brushing a kiss across her trembling fingers. His voice rumbled softly, steady and certain. No one wants to be broken. But sometimes the broken are the ones destiny remakes into something stronger. You are Luna. You were always meant to be. The crowd remained bowed, silence thick in the clearing. And in the silver glow of the moon, with every eye upon her, she finally believed it. She was no longer the rejected one. She was his. She was Luna. The moonlight still glowed upon them, but the clearing had fallen into uneasy silence. The Alpha King stood tall, his golden eyes blazing, her trembling hand anchored firmly in his. Their bond still shimmered in the night air, silver and gold threads twining invisibly between them. No one could deny what they had seen. No one could deny the moon's blessing. Yet defiance flickered in their stares. The nobles shifted uneasily, their jeweled gowns rustling as they whispered furiously among themselves. The elders gripped their staffs, their faces pale with fury, their lips pressed into tight lines. And her father's face was carved in stone, his jaw clenched so tightly a vein throbbed in his temple. His pride burned hotter than any torch, but his wolf remained pressed to the ground, whimpering under the king's dominance. She trembled, her heart racing as she looked around the crowd. Every eye seemed to cut into her, weighing her, judging her, whispering their disdain. The shame she had buried clawed back to the surface. Her hands shook in his grip, her lips trembling as she whispered, "They hate me." The king lowered his head slightly, his golden eyes meeting hers. His voice was low, steady, meant for her alone. Let them. Hatred is the weapon of the powerless. Soon, they will bow in respect, not fear. Until then, I will be enough. His words steadied her storm, but only slightly. Her knees still shook, her chest still ached. Could she truly stand as Luna? Could she bear the weight of their scorn? The first elder stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly. His voice shook, not with fear, but with restrained outrage. My king, what you have done defies centuries of tradition. To claim the rejected, to call another's child your heir, it is dangerous. It risks the wrath of the moon. Gasps rippled through the crowd, whispers rising again. Her chest tightened, her tears brimming. But the king's gaze snapped to the elder, his voice cutting sharp as steel. You speak of the moon's wrath, yet the moon herself blessed us tonight. Or did you not see her light? The elder faltered, his staff dimming slightly, his mouth opening but no words escaping. The king's wolf surged, his growl rolling through the clearing, pressing the elder to his knees. Your laws are nothing beside the will of the moon. Remember your place. The elder bowed low, forced into silence. Another noble woman dared to raise her voice, her jeweled hands clutching tightly at her fan. She is weak. She was rejected. How can weakness sit at your side as queen? The king turned his gaze on her, his eyes glowing dangerously. Weakness? He pulled her closer, his arm wrapping protectively around her waist. His voice thundered, final and absolute. You saw her stand before you all, broken and alone, yet she spoke her truth. That is not weakness. That is strength. And she will be stronger still as my Luna. The noble woman stumbled back, her wolf whimpering under the force of his dominance. The king's gaze swept the crowd, silencing every whisper, every spark of defiance. She is mine. She is queen. And if you cannot accept that, then you cannot stand in my kingdom. The pack lowered their heads, their wolves bowing instinctively. Submission rippled through the clearing like a wave, bending nobles, silencing elders, humbling even her father. Her father finally looked up, his eyes burning with fury, but his body trembling with forced submission. His voice cracked as he spat the words. You shame us all. You shame yourself. The king stepped forward, his dominance slamming into the older man like a physical blow, forcing him to his knees once more. His golden eyes blazed as his voice dropped low, filled with lethal promise. The only shame is yours. You gave away what was never yours to give. You broke her. And now, she will rise higher than you could ever dream. Her father's wolf whimpered, his head pressed to the ground, unable to resist. For the first time in her life, she saw him powerless. Her chest constricted, her tears spilling silently. The man who had silenced her, belittled her, chained her, now bowed at her feet, not because of her, but because of the king. Yet still, a strange ache pierced her heart. She whispered softly, trembling, he'll never see me. The king turned to her, his arms steady around her, his golden gaze softening as he pressed his forehead gently to hers. His voice was a vow sealed in fire. Then let him remain blind. I see you. And that is enough. Her sob broke freely, her tears hot against his cloak. For the first time, she believed his words. The crowd remained bowed, silenced under the moonlight. The king's voice thundered one final time, sealing the night. From this night forward, she is your Luna. Bow to her, or bow to your graves. The clearing erupted in submission. Staffs lowered, nobles bent deeper, villagers pressed their foreheads to the ground. The air filled with the sound of wolves whimpering low, their instincts bending to the undeniable truth. She stood trembling, tears streaming, her wolf howling triumphantly inside her. She had been the rejected one, the broken one, the girl no one wanted. But tonight, before the moon, the pack, and her father, she had been remade. She was Luna. She was queen. And nothing could take that from her. The clearing had emptied slowly, one bowed head at a time, until only silence remained. The nobles had retreated, the elders had lowered their staffs, and even her father had slunk away, his pride shattered under the weight of the Alpha King's dominance. But she stayed. She stood beside the king, her hands trembling in his, her chest still heaving with the echoes of everything that had happened. The moonlight lingered over them, soft and silver, as though it, too, refused to let the night end. Her heart raced. Her tears stained her cheeks. Her body ached from fear and trembling. And yet, deep inside, something new stirred. Something fragile, but undeniable. Hope. The Alpha King turned to her, his golden eyes steady, his expression softer than she had ever seen it. He brushed his thumb across her cheek, wiping away the last of her tears. They bowed, he murmured. Even those who despised you. They bowed because they had no choice. But one day, they will bow because they choose to. Her lips trembled as she whispered, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not like them. I was never meant to stand before a pack. His gaze burned deeper, his wolf pressing gently against hers through the bond. His voice was firm, final, a vow carved in stone. You were always meant to stand here. Not because of them. Because of me. Because of us. And because the moon herself chose you. Her tears returned, but they were different now, softer, lighter, no longer heavy with shame. She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his chest. They'll never forget what I was, she whispered. The king tilted her chin up again, his golden eyes blazing with fierce certainty. No. They will remember what you became. The bond between them pulsed, silver and gold threads shimmering faintly in the air, warming her from the inside out. Her wolf howled in triumph, its voice stronger, freer than it had been since the day of rejection. For the first time in months, she felt whole. The king's hand slid gently to her stomach, his palm resting protectively over the life within her. Sparks flared again, not violent this time, but warm and steady. And our child, he murmured, his voice low but full of promise. They will never know shame. They will never be cast aside. They will be born into power, into respect, into love. Her heart cracked wide, her tears falling freely. She covered his hand with hers, pressing it tighter to her belly. You'd really claim it as your own, she whispered, voice breaking. Even though it isn't. His growls silenced her doubts, low and fierce. It is mine. From the moment I saw that heartbeat, it became mine. From the moment I touched you, you became mine. There will be no more questions. No more lies. Only truth. Her sobs softened into something else. Relief. Healing. Trust. The Alpha King lowered his forehead to hers, his golden eyes glowing brighter. You are not weak, he whispered. You are not cursed. You are Luna. And from this night forward, you will never bow again. Her chest heaved, her lips trembling as she finally whispered the words she had been too afraid to believe. I am Luna. The bond flared, the moonlight brightening above them as if sealing the vow itself. And for the first time, she smiled through her tears. Sometimes, the ones the world calls weak are the very ones destiny chooses to rise. She was rejected, broken, cast aside, yet in the end, she found her strength in the place she least expected. But what about you? If fate gave you a second chance, would you take the Alpha King's hand, or would you still fear the whispers of the crowd? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us here at Alpha's Wolf Romance Library for more long, immersive werewolf shifter romance stories, where rejection, destiny, and love collide.